CMV. Waving the Confederate flag is more disrespectful to the American flag than kneeling during the national anthem. This post probably isn't for people who don't think kneeling is disrespectful to the flag to begin with. But I feel there is a portion of the US population in the South that is adamant that you must stand for the national anthem, but are also partial to displaying the Confederate flag. While the argument about what kneeling is really about has probably been in numerous other posts, some still believe it's an insult to the American flag as well as the US military. Despite it being made clear the protest is not about the flag or the military, people still think that performing the protest during the anthem, and while the flag is specifically on display, is disrespectful regardless of the intention. In this regard, any display of the Confederate flag, other than in a completely unambiguously historical context, is far more disrespectful to the American flag than kneeling is. Flying the Confederate flag as a source of pride, even if it's just pride of your own ancestry, is demonstrating that you are proud of a side that fought against what the current flag stands for now. It's not to be confused with a state flag or anything like that. It's a flag that specifically represents a way of life that the current flag is against. I don't necessarily want this to turn into an argument that the Confederate flag isn't about slavery. My case is that the Confederate flag clearly represents a time when the country was divided and the Confederate side lost. So still flying a Confederate flag shows a continued act of divisiveness towards other Americans when the argument is that the American flag is a sign of unity. It would be similar to claiming you're flying the Union Jack flag to show American patriotism. The Union Jack and Confederate flag both represent losing sides of attempts to make America into something different than what it is now. So any claim to have pride in those flags is not American pride or patriotism, which is in direct conflict with true American patriotism and therefore disrespectful to the idea of what the American flag represents. As mentioned above, I'm perfectly fine with anything being represented in an historical context. History is crucial and required for education, but there's a pretty clear distinction between historical representation and what I'm talking about, so I'd rather not use this post to debate historical relevance. CMV, that if you think kneeling is disrespectful to the American flag, then you should also think flying the Confederate flag is disrespectful to the American flag, and even more so. I think this whole discussion is moot and drastically misses the mark considering the underlying issues that are masked by arguments over symbols which, as other people are correctly noting, mean very different things to different people. I agree that you can make a case for the hypocrisy of people being up in arms about football players taking a knee during the national anthem, yet being okay with what is obviously, to you and me, a symbol of racism and rebellion against the US. But calling out hypocrisy is the low-hanging fruit of political discourse. We all seem like hypocrites to one another because we have different underlying values. The entire issue here is that when Kaepernick and others take a knee, it was never intended to be against the anthem or against the military. The fact that right-wing pundits disingenuously swept under the rug the actual purpose, being against police brutality, is a good indicator that their coverage was simply culture war bait, and I think in some sense we're taking that bait by turning their logic around. This is the same culture war bait that mainstream center-right and center-left lapped up when Obama was accused of being anti-American, like that means anything, for not wearing a flag pin on his lapel or wearing a tan suit. We should be rejecting the premise that anybody has to stand for symbols when there is so much rightful dispute over what those symbols do mean and should mean. This is a very American discussion in that we're one of the only countries that obsesses over our flag and our symbols, so let's not get trapped into thinking that having respect for symbols is an inherently moral position. This discussion should be about values. Here's the thing. Even if what you're saying is true, it could be argued that it's irrelevant, because pretty much the entirety of the anthem kneeling issue was focused around NFL players kneeling during the anthem, and as far as I know, not one player ever waved the Confederate flag around during the anthem. This is like saying, flipping the bird during the anthem is more disrespectful than kneeling. Well, okay, yeah, but no one is doing the former. Depends. Kneeling and the Confederate flag are both symbols. Symbols can be interpreted many different ways. Kneeling is sometimes used to symbolize respect by kneeling in prayer or kneeling before a king. Kneeling can also symbolize refusing to stand at attention and refusing to give respect, or something different altogether. It depends on the eye of the beholder. The Confederate flag could symbolize the Southern attack on the United States, but it also could just be used because the Dukes of Hazzard had it, and it looks cool. Kneeling and flags are symbols. Symbols can mean different things to different people. Which one is more disrespectful is going to be different for everyone. I won't repeat what has been said above, but just want to throw this out regarding people being offended by cap kneeling. The only real uniting identity that the average white person has is being an American. Smaller religions, Jews, Mormons, JW, etc., have that, but to those white outsiders who don't, their only sense of uniting pride is being an American. The crowd that got angry about cap kneeling genuinely did not see it as a protest against police brutality / etc. They see it as someone disrespecting the one uniting factor they have, the American identity, the flag, supporting the troops they believe their patriotism is supporting. Black Americans have their community, brother, sister, etc. The LGBTQ+ have that common thread that holds them together. Latinos, Jews, Asians, and other all have that common bond. White Americans don't have anything similar. All they have is being an American. A bit drunk, so I'm sorry if that rambled. But my main point is that they genuinely don't see the intention of kneeling as a protest against police brutality. They see it as an attack on the one common identity they have. Short point on the Confederate flag: I'm from Texas, and the only people I know who will fly / wear / tattoo the Confederate flag genuinely don't see it as a racist symbol. It doesn't matter to them what liberals tell them that it means. To them, it's a symbol of being a proud country person / redneck / rebel / etc. If conservatives decided tomorrow that the Black Power fist, not sure what to call it, but you know what I'm talking about, was a black supremacy sign and was anti-white racism, no BLM advocate would accept their definition of their symbol. My point is, if your opponents told you that a symbol you believe in now meant different than what you believe it to be, most people would continue using even harder as a fuck you to those who are trying to make them stop. To clarify, I don't fly the Confederate flag and I'm okay with cap kneeling.